usually the audio. Good morning.
Well, hello, you fine people. How are you doing out there, ladies and gentlemen?
Good morning. How are you, people of the Vale?
Well, hickety hi ho hey. If it isn't the old 0% there audience.
Well, I never.
Yes, you know, back in Mother Russia, if we found someone who is causing these kinds of problems, my brother would take him and he would hang him in the meat locker. But that's okay. That's okay. Now that we're here together and there's 0 of us here and there is no title on this video and no tags, I'm going to discuss a few things. The first thing is the thing I wasn't going to talk about at all. Have you ever had a neighbor who seemed friendly at times, but then other times it was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and then you ran into them on the street and you waved at them all friendly, and then they tried to chase you, and so you're like, I'm gonna have to pull into a parking lot in case this is a fisticuffs. You're like, what the hell's going on here in this universe? Have you ever gone to Reddit and found a story about a just world fallacy and said that the just world fallacy is just there to keep people in line to maintain the status quo? That's why people are like, oh, look at the innocent people of the past and how they brought their prayers from the nations.
Those fucking pieces of shit.
No. What I was sitting here thinking about is, in the curriculum of gratitude. Actually, I haven't had it forced on me too much, but yeah, no, I guess I have. I guess I have. Now, there's been many attempts. Good morning. I see 7 people. YouTube must have somehow magically directed 7 unsuspecting victims to a YouTube channel with no tags, no description, no picture. Good morning. What are you doing in your collective houses today? Have you had your coffee yet? Is your family nothing but trouble, or are they falling right in line? Does anybody of the 7 people who just showed up? Well, no, I feel really, wow, there's 11 now. There's 11 people. Did you have your coffee? Is your children, are you the kind of person when your family, like, I was just sitting here thinking about this to myself. I was comparing 2 men, and I know you're not supposed to compare men, but there's one man I know. We're just going to call him Stuart, and we're going to call the other guy Dudley. And Stuart is like worried about everything. Not to the point where he doesn't work or function, but like if something's wrong with one of his children or something, you can see genuine concern in Stuart's eyes. I have to tell you, Stuart and his wife actually treat each other with respect. I've never heard them yell at each other. They have some sort of like a country western theme going on with their household and their children and their holidays. It's pretty cute. They like it. They like kind of like a Pioneer Day theme, but they're very respectful to each other. Stuart can be concerned about society and the world he lives in and the people around him as well. But he understands that his primary concern is his little family that he's part of in his immediate community. Because he can't really fix everything. And if he gets focused on all of it, he just gets so confused he can't take care of the few things that he can do. Dudley, on the other hand, has no internal concern for his children. He does get he does get angry or like certain kinds of outrage, but it's because the children are supposed to fit an image that fits his image that keeps him looking good and keeps the family looking at a certain level. And if the kids can't maintain the image, he's going to get pissed and he's going to make life difficult. Dudley also, it depends on which wife you're talking about. So the wife who bears his children and actually he's married to, Dudley beats her, and she's from another country. She doesn't speak good English. He takes advantage of that legally because he does. And basically, to this day, if his name is brought up, she will start weeping uncontrollably and be unconsolable for hours and out of it for weeks. That's how bad Dudley is. This is from his son, Dudley Jr. But he did find a new wife who was in the process of inheriting millions of dollars in a vineyard. And he appears to treat her respectfully, although I will say he keeps her suspiciously inebriated. So I don't know that he's probably planning to do her in. Who knows what he's planning? Well, you have to look at how he treated the previous wife. You can't imagine there's anything good going on there for the second one. And so he probably took a life insurance policy out on her and is waiting for her to kick the bucket. Who knows? And so Dudley doesn't get concerned. Dudley's community is there to make him look good and make him look like a good looking guy when he's really not, and to give him the infrastructure to do it. A Tale of Two Men. And you know what's really interesting? In real life, there was a guy who had two sons. One was named, he wanted to do an experiment. And so he named one winner. He named one winner and he named one loser. Winner grew up and was like a wife beater who spent a lot of time in prison, and loser was like the captain of the fire department and all this other stuff, and supposedly an excellent father. It's a fascinating story. I don't know. I think it could be because winner sounds an awful lot like wiener. Loser? I don't know. I mean, it's like, who knows, man? It could be because the words naturally intrinsically have opposite meanings. That we're just put in a state of cognitive dissonance by a linguistic lie. I heard someone say that if anything has to be spoken into existence, it's not legit. And I was like, yeah, but the Bible says that about the world. And then it's like, what if the world is not legit? And then I heard someone say that if you have to silence the competition to get famous or get your word heard or get your point of view to the front, then your point of view is not that good. No, because you try to get it to the front and get people addicted to it before they have the opportunity to get exposed to both. I mean, even the Bible says one man comes and shows his case before a judge, and the judge immediately thinks the first guy is right, but till his brother comes to cross-examine him and puts the whole thing in light. No. Anyone who has to silence the competition to get to the top doesn't have a better point of view. But that's not where we're going yet. Where are we going? We were just thinking about Earth and how on Earth it's a survival of the fittest, right? And like coyotes, for instance, in the wild, like 50% of their young make it. Like I think 50% make it through the first year and ever get to the point where they have kids themselves. I don't even know if those are the ones that have kids themselves. I think it's just the survivors. Because they are picky about which only one couple has pups that year and all the other stuff. But then next, you've got humans that live in the center of like like a continental ridge plate zones. If you go to the center, away from the ridges, the human death rate for the children is about 50%. If you look at most wild animals, it's about 50%. If you look at humans in the Middle Ages, it was about 66% of humans didn't even make it to the point of successfully reproducing. But it's not just humans, right? It's like coyotes and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, and like puppies and kittens if they're born feral out on the road. Like it turns out, like I think orangutans have a 93% like survival rate. Do you want to know why? The parents don't really raise the orangutan in the tribe. They don't raise them in the pack. They take the little orangutan off on their own and they raise their young in solitary. You want to look at communal species, spotted hyenas are born with teeth and their eyes open, sharp little teethies, and they usually kill their litter mate. So like if you want your children to have a high survival rate naturally without modern medicine, you would actually have to leave the tribe, contrary to what everybody says, and go far away from it. Because the more in the communal species you are, the more likely that like half your infants aren't really going to make it. And that's the Earth program. The Earth program is the ones that are supposed to reproduce are only the ones that make it, like the 50% approximately. Now, we watch movies like Marvel Comics that talk about Thanos, right? Which is a form of the name Nathaniel, right? So Thanos, kind of like the prophet Nathaniel or something like that in the Bible. They're trying to put into a play of words, Thanos. I think that's what they're trying to say, but maybe not. But Thanos shows up in Marvel Comics and he's like, I want 50% of your humans. What is he really saying? He's saying that he wants you to revert to tribalism, wherein 50% of your young would not make it through the first year. And humans have been used to this for how long? Oh, pretty much their whole evolution. As a matter of fact, there's a bottleneck that they say that humanity for 100,000 years had less than 2,000 people on the entire planet. Over 100,000 years, there was less than 2,000 people. What do you think the rate of their young surviving was then? So what you're telling me is that humans have had more hundreds of thousands of years of evolution to be equipped to deal with the death of half their young from natural circumstances. And we've been telling people, if you lose a child, you're going to have a breakdown, and it would be better if you had never been born. What an insult to the mother. That's an insult to the mother. Bird in the hand is always better than two in the bush. So what happens when a communal race on Earth has an artificial intervention for 150 years or so that prevents half of the children from dying? Not because they have better life circumstances, not because they were taken off alone like the orangutan and given appropriate care, but because modern medicine has kept them on a form of life support so that they could continue to reproduce. What would happen? Well, according to many Redditors, and some of them have degrees in science even, something, and I've read it through ChatGPT, something called deleterious, you hear the word delete in there, something worthy of deletion, deleterious mutations stack up. Because in a planet where people are survival of the fittest and evolution, really only half the young are supposed to make it, the toughest half. And so what happens is the half that die off had too many deleterious mutations. And so that's how Mother Nature thins out the deleterious mutations, is those are the ones that die. So when there's traits that can't be survived with, that people survive with and reproduce with regardless, right? You essentially create a society that at any moment, first of all, if you pulled the plug on medicine, let's just be realistic here. If right now, at this moment, hypothetically, in the observer bubble, all modern medicine stopped, on the entire planet. No life support, no antibiotics, no dentist. If you don't know how to sew yourself up and use soap and water and whatever you've got on hand, that's it. That's it. At this point, it wouldn't be 50% of your children that would die, because you've been having the 50% that wouldn't have typically survived, have been breeding over and over again for 150 years. So at this point, probably 95% of the people on Earth would die. Within a decade or two. Give it 20 years, I say at least 90% of the human population would be decimated by just not having modern medicine. What do you say? What happens when those people and those animals don't die is that, first of all, you have to think that life on Earth is not about being happy. It's about survival, and it's about living on that edge of survival and loving living on that edge of survival. Let's be honest. Let's look at all the species of the planet. Maybe the orangutan, the snake. There's a few that chill a bit, but like still there's still survival going on there. We weren't made to be happy. We were made to survive. If you look at pictures in the 1800s, people will say, oh, they had to keep their faces still so that the camera wouldn't make them blurry. Yeah, they could have held their face in a smile too for that whole time. They could have tried to do that. It didn't seem like a good idea because they thought it made them look undignified, quite frankly. And I can see why. And so what's happened is that the deleterious mutations have stacked and stacked and stacked. And what happens when deleterious mutations stack? An unnatural energy output. So like creatures enjoy being alive because they are part of that 50% that could survive and conquer, essentially, even amongst their own. The ones that don't, they die trying to conquer, so at least they went out reasonably. So that's just as fine. But like to unnaturally prolong them when they don't have the same zeal for life and they don't have the same zeal for things, and then to have them have children over and over and over again when they don't have the skill set or the enjoyment of survival that would give them the skill set, what they've proven is something called deleterious mutations stack up. And according to one Redditor, if we don't do something about it, in 250 years, the world will look like Idiocracy. The IQ will be very low. The emotional IQ will also be very low. And so who's maybe I need to talk about a lighter subject for a minute now. Zed Wolf says he wants 99% gone tomorrow. I get those feelings sometimes too, Dead Wolf. Because this is what happens, okay? There hasn't been, since 1988, I was watching a YouTube video yesterday, and this guy was making a strong argument that there's been no real, like, before 1988, in the 30 years preceding it, we got the Beatles, we got Sinatra, we got, like, Janis Joplin, Michael Jackson, we got, like, a never-ending stream of fucking genius artists, right? Women were passing out. And then after 88, in the next 30 years, you can't even compare the scanty handful you've gotten to the people you had before. You can't compare it. Now, according to a lot of Redditors, this is because of deleterious mutations. We've been stuck with the same rock and rollers since 88 because the deleterious mutations have hit a critical point where the creative output can no longer be at the same level unless we go to a war that doesn't involve warfare, preferably, where men go to hand-to-hand combat and we get rid of a massive amount of them, or we could come up with a really convincing space program and tell them that only the best and the finest get sent to Mars and just give them the old launch. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I'll tell you another reason why that would really get you motivated. It's the Kellogg study. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with Kellogg cereal. When my brother Nathaniel was in rehab, he had a Dr. Kellogg, and it turned out he is the grandson of the doctor who made Kellogg cereal. I thought that was just fascinating. And so, good old Dr. Kellogg. So a recent Kellogg study showed that human beings, so say you're sitting in a room and there's people that are walking around in the rooms outside of you, like you're in an office building. And these people are within 25 feet of you, but you can't see their faces. It turns out that you either will get like a 30% deficit in productivity if they're disruptive, even without seeing them or hearing them, just from their energy, from your body picking up on their magnetic energy and whatever their hormones and everything else, and regulating with it, regulating with their nervous system and their brain, and syncing up with them because you can't help it because you're a human. This is why tribes used to stay segregated, because they would not want to link up with people because you will be like a frog boiling in water. You will psychically, mentally, and physiologically link up with the people you're within a certain amount of feet from. If these people are disruptive, it will drive your productivity down by as much as 30%. And if they're like super productive and on it, it can drive your productivity up by as much as 8%, which means, let's say that you've been working on a book for 10 years and you have some neighbors move in next door. All of a sudden your productivity bumps up. Your book gets pumped out in a week and you're like, holy fuck. Or maybe it takes a year, but still. Or say you've been working on a project for 10 years and you're almost at the end of it and some disruptive neighbors move in and you can't organize your thought and you never get your book published. That's what the Kellogg study is saying. And it's saying it's true for the average human. Let that sink in. Your success is being governed by the people that you sleep and eat around and live around more than you know. There's a professor by the name of Robert Sapolsky, I believe it's Harvard University. He's written books on this, on biological determinism and how little free choice we as humans really, truly have. We experience things called immersion. Like when you're swimming and you're wet, you're experiencing immersion. And he said, free choice and the locus of control makes people feel better, but ultimately, like he's broken it down, it's almost completely an illusion. Especially if you have to move to a neighborhood to be around people, to produce a certain kind of book or to produce your art. Elton John, he has a certain guy that when he writes his music, this guy sits in a different room of the house where Elton John can't see him, but in a nearby room, and that's how he's pumped out a lot of his really good music. So I guess the Kellogg study has empirical evidence too. Holy fuck, no wonder people get in a neighborhood and they can't ever get out. Because the human biology is set up that once you sense your tribe, you've slept around these people, you're going to try to defend their interests along with your own. Subconsciously, you can't help it. That's why people used to segregate tribes so hard, because they were trying to segregate their interests. Because you will represent the interests of the people you sleep around. Now, if you get into a disorder that has a natural lack of gating, neurological gating like autism, they've proven that autistic people get the same results of the Kellogg study, but on steroids. They can either get superpowers or super deficits. So we don't know the exact range, but does that mean that they even have larger than a 25-foot range around them? What if you have another thing that could cause you to have a lack of gating? What about just plain old infancy? Well, you haven't learned to gate yet. I'm just, tossing it out there. Anyway. So, back to the deleterious mutations. So, the kind of energy that people give off that are part of the natural 50% survivors is a kind of energy that you can essentially pick up by proxy just by being around it. Because humans are naturally do this, like we just discussed in the previous studies. So, when you allow there to be a massive population of people who are lacking in survival, like the kind of survival energies that would have kept them alive, and carry a really heavy load of deleterious mutations, their physical and energetic energy is not the energy of a survivor. And I think that that is the reason why society has made a marketing campaign out of happiness. Now, there was not, happiness is a marketing campaign, and it did come about in the 1800s. There's a lot of things people have marketed before, but to my understanding, that it is just only since modern medicine's been around and people have gotten actually measurably dumber that they've had to market happiness. Because if you're living in the land of turning into idiocracy, then marketing happiness starts to make a lot more sense. So it's not a legit thing. And then think about it this way. The only person who would enjoy being around a massive population of people that are carrying a heavy load of deleterious mutations are people who can't pick up on the suffering of those people. Like, you don't call it suffering, you call it happiness, but the complacent, like, lack of survival energies, the lack of living on the edge, the lack of all of it, right? Like, and it's getting worse. In 250 years, it will be an idiocracy, according to one Redditor. But so, like, who would enjoy that? I can think of someone who would enjoy it. Well, if your anterior cingulate cortex functioned in such a way that you didn't experience other people's energy, like if somebody else's energy was down or they're suffering, if it didn't give you a corresponding like pain, but instead you perhaps exploit them and get a dopamine hit, right? Like 20% of the population, according to both Andrew Bustamante, CIA book author, and the Yale baby study. That 80% of humans are pretty decent, but like 20% are genuinely out to get you. So what you're saying is that the ones who are out to get you have an anterior cingulate cortex that doesn't cause corresponding suffering. They have cognitive empathy, but not the involuntary physical empathy so 80% of the population, because of the way their anterior cingulate cortex functions, they're basically good people. They basically like pro-social behavior. They basically like justice, according to pretty much all the studies. But %20 don't. 20% of the population do not get corresponding suffering in their body, their physiology, or their mind when other people suffer, and they may even get a beneficial hit of dopamine. that makes them feel better. So if there's a massive population and you're not picking up on the energy of the population by proxy, then you will be okay with overpopulation and deleterious mutations stacking up to create a nation of not even idiots, because that's a kind word, of people who have limited emotional and psychological resources in order to just cause them to be suffering for no reason, because you don't get anything but pleasure out of exploiting them. That right? Hi there, Dead Wolf. Shit. Oh, off. Well, that's why you could see why when Thanos shows up in Marvel Comics, he's like demanding the 50% back. He's just saying like coyotes, 50% of their young die the first year. People who live in the center of the outback, 50% of their young die the first year. Humans, at least 50% of their young have died the first year for many, many thousands of years. We're equipped to deal with it. And that's another thing. If for 100,000 years the human population didn't pass 2,000, according to scientists, then all those moms for 100,000 years were fucking used to almost every single one of their kids dying. Like, a population of women who can't handle the death of a child to natural circumstances is not a survival trait, is it? And putting it on a pedestal like it is one is not either, is it? It means we were meant to be able to equipped to handle respectfully the death of half of our young from natural circumstances. And this idea that we can't handle it emotionally is probably not either it's not legitimate maybe, or also it could be something that's happened because the deleterious mutations have stacked. So it's created a people so emotionally vulnerable that they can't handle the death of a child, which is just a natural part of life. All right, I'm opening it up for questions. I'm just going to sit here and sip my coffee and see if anybody writes in. Oh my gosh, I was snacking last night, I can tell you that. Wow. Am I the only one who ever wakes up? No, I know other people do this. You wake up in the morning and you find like different wrappers and snacks and cookies and treats that are like just the wrappers of them laying around. Breakfast bars, marijuana taffy. What else do we have here? Pita crackers. All right. What are we doing? Oh. Wow. I think when you look at like cats, you can tell if a cat is, I'll wait for your questions, but just chatting while we're waiting. If a cat is a male or a female cat, you really can tell just by looking at their face. And I feel like with dogs, that if you look at the face of a dog, you could definitely kind of tell if it's a boy or a girl. I feel like you can. They genuinely, maybe there's some that are more challenging than others, but like my dog's a girl dog, and when I look at her face, I think to myself like, gosh, it's pretty obvious that she's a girl. It's just a look. There's nothing wrong with it. Even boy dogs get a girl dog look sometimes. What have you been doing? Did you lick yourself in just this one little weird spot? That's strange and gross, honey. She's here. I'm gonna go sit to Derek. My little plant was doing so well. The dogs. Oh, there is a question here. Oh, okay. I've got, hey. Dead Wolf wrote coffee. I find that warming in the subcockles of my heart. Have you had your coffee this morning? You have. Good. Let's take a sip. Because we have coffee. I ask people that. Have you had your coffee this morning? If you're showing up here. You burned your Trump flag Friday night. I enjoy hearing about that. This channel actually started off, I didn't even have a YouTube channel, and as it was not even going to make one. But in the elections, when the Democratic primaries went, it was Bernie Sanders was supposed to compete against Trump. From the outside, it looked like it. And a lot of things went a little haywire. And so then I turned this into a political channel, and I just put one video up, and it was like why I would vote for Trump because of what happened in the Democratic primaries. And I got like 33,000 views on like just the one video. And honestly, most of my subs, I think like 900 of my subs to this day are not like, I don't know where they're at. They signed up during the time when I made a few videos in like protesting what happened in the Democratic primaries and saying I would probably vote for Trump because then Hillary if I was going to vote because of the way that it was done. And so I got like subscribers out of nowhere, and then I started just talking about regular geek stuff from the newspaper, whatever was in the Drudge Report, and then now it's become, I don't know what it is anymore. It's just whatever. So, but the Trump thing, I totally get you. Like I feel like Alex Jones, Trump has really humiliated him. And I think that it should be taken note of that Alex Jones went out on a limb to support Trump. He really did. He went out there, he supported him. And then what happened? What's happened to Alex Jones's business and his empire since Trump's been in power? You might think he's crazy, but he's willing to say anything. And there's some things that can only get said by a person who will say anything. And so what's happened to Alex Jones since his buddy Trump that he helped get in office has been there? Has his business been liquidated by the government? Did they go in there and take it from him and put him in court? Has he been nonstop harassed?
Has he been taken off of YouTube? And like Jeffrey Doherty, he's been allowed back on YouTube. But Alex Jones, he's still not even allowed back on YouTube. How have things gone for Alex Jones since he supported Trump? This guy turns on his friends, man. I'm when I hear about a Trump flag getting burnt, I'm kind of glad. It's one thing like to have a protest vote because you're upset, but like as things have gone on and on, I think for a normal person, like one of the things that should be a giveaway is that if any of our presidents in the history of America had ever put out a painting of themselves showing up like the Messiah from biblical pictures, healing people with angels flying in the background, if Jimmy Carter had put out a picture of himself, people would have said, Jim Jones, the government has to take him out. He's out of control. The government would have removed Carter. Everybody would have been like, he lost his mind. And like, so, I mean, Steve Pachenik is a CIA agent who Alex Jones was having on his show a lot during the time right before Trump got elected. And what Pachenik said about politics is he said, all politics in America is always inversion politics. So like, whatever they want to do, they're going to put the guy who looks like he represents the opposite of it at the top of the power structure because it distracts the people so much that they don't notice what you're doing. So like, it's just the way it's done. And so I was like, okay, yeah. So you burned your Trump flag Friday night. These things happen. So part of me is happy about it. And a part of me is like, doesn't care, I guess, anymore about any of that stuff. Part of me is like, what Trump? Another part of me is like, I'm glad the flag was burned. Another part of me is like, I don't even like hate Trump particularly more or less than any other leader. It's not about him. No. They took the temperature of the American public and the situation and everything else and whoever they is. And Trump, or maybe they didn't take it. Maybe it was just the natural environment. Like, I don't know, like the people would not have accepted a Trump at a different time. Previous to 1988, if you had tried to introduce somebody acting like Trump, the public wouldn't have done it. The demand for decorum. Decorum and bearing have more in military, have more, I don't know, they have more bearing than we think of. Because, like, once you know the etiquette and the decorum, the president should be able to maintain, if he's able to maintain like etiquette and decorum, it just gives the people, whether he's a figurehead or not, it gives them the sense of like, at least we have etiquette and decorum. Like okay, how can I explain this? In sociology, there's a something called anomie. Anomie is when a people lose their traditions, their etiquette, their decorum, their way of life. And a certain percentage of them will commit suicide, and a massive amount of them get confused and they can't function anymore. And so when your leader doesn't have bearing and decorum, like everybody just kind of like doesn't like, even if he's an appointed puppet, like the fact that you would think that everybody's okay with an appointed puppet who can't hold his bearing is highly disturbing. That means you're testing. It just feels like the public is being beta tested for what kind of ridiculous antics of trollops rolling off turnip trucks that they will tolerate from day to day. And what kind of shenanigans and what kind of I don't know. I mean, like, how can people don't assemble for battle unless the trumpet puts out a sure sound? When the sound that's put out doesn't have bearing, it's embarrassing to the American public. So, like, for me, when I've gone to barbershops and just talked to people, a lot of people that were okay with Trump in the office were okay with him initially, but one of the main reasons why they are the ones that are like not so hot about him anymore is actually going to sound superficial to people, but it's really not that superficial. It's a loss of bearing. Once you start taking pot shots and you start acting petty and you start losing control in front of, you're making our country look bad. You're making us look bad. It's embarrassing. Like, mothers try to teach their sons, like, I know that these things, men act certain ways in private, but like, this is not like our society to act like, to just randomly lose your bearing. Where's your sense of decorum? How can you train your kids to like maintain their bearing when their president has emotional meltdowns and puts out weird hyperbolic Jim Jones pictures to the whole country? And like the people who try to help get him elected, he openly has their lives and their reputation destroyed. So if you go to try to support him, just know how he treats his friends, right? Supposed friends. How are the dogs? Lily is well. She is a piece of work. She's smart. She's a sturdy bitch. Simon, he is, I hear him. Oh, there he is. He's somewhere he's not supposed to be. As soon as I brought that up, he gave away his position and marked that he's somewhere he's not supposed to be. Simon! Hey! Simmons, go inside. Don't harass neighbors.
Now are you coming to see me? Hi, Simon. Simon. Oh.
Go inside with Derek. Here, I might shine the camera out the window so they could see Simon. I'll give you a view of the Simon. It's the wrong view. Hold on. Way close up to my face. There's Simon. There he is. Oh. You need to go inside with your man. He's over that way. Ooh, cat food. Ooh. Mm. Licking the lips. Derek, you're going to have to go get him. He's not coming. There. Oh, look. Reverse psychology. All right. Here, we'll shine the camera at my area. Hold on. Hold on. Why is it going the wrong way? I feel like... Oh. Better. There. Now you may see my sitting area. That's because I propped this camera up in a cup. Hold on. We're gonna try a couple of remote control. This is very professional. How am I gonna see their wait? You gotta see their questions first. No doubt. There he is. There's the Simmons. Hold on. There you go. All right. Darling, go. The people of the Vale want to see you briefly. Did you drink your water? You may go to the front of the camera angle to be seen by the people. There was a request made about your general well-being. Let me see. Come. I don't think they can see down here. It smells like fart land. They can't see down here, I don't think. I think it's covered up from the camera. Let's see. No, they could. But will the camera flip over? It could. Now they'll have the... Come here, Lily. Let's show... Sit. This is her. All right. You want to dip down? Oh, down. And there. Good. Oh, you smell like a sweaty dog. You smell like a sweaty dog. Okay, come on. This way. Do you want to see? I'll show you something. God, it smells like farts in here. This are my marijuana candies. I bought more than $200 worth of marijuana candies because they were on sale for like 90-something% off. I paid less than $30. I paid less than $30 for all this marijuana candy. So, yep. I don't think they can even hear me in there, to be honest with you. No. have a friend who says that she thinks that the Ralphs and the Vons shut down their double coupon program because of me. Because I would have coupons shipped in from out of state, and then I would double the manufacturer with the store, and they would have to let me walk out with a lot of goods, and they'd have to give me money back from the cash register. And she said that it was so much that she felt that somehow they were horrified, and they had to stop the double coupon program to prevent the open theft, where the store cashiers had to be nice to me and let me buy the stuff for free and then give me money back. I can't believe it. This is literally like $24 that I spent, and I got like, how much is it? What's 24 times? It's almost $300. I think it's about $300 worth of marijuana for $24. It's not expired. It's not anything. It's fucking. It's just coupon shopping. I don't know. There is a definite thrill to coupon shopping because if you get it right, then they have to give you the product and the service and money, and you didn't do anything. I didn't like that laugh I just had. No, that doesn't feel like me. Who's laughing with my voice? It is I. No, it's not you. Who was that? Just kidding. Okay. Deadwolf, if you put a link on my channel to your best video lately, I'll go watch it. I've just been on the... I'll tell you what kind of videos I've been watching lately. I haven't even been watching Jeffrey Doherty. Not much. Lately, my latest kicks have been the last couple weeks. I've been on enemy meditations. There's a whole thread of enemy meditations for your enemies, and so I just listen to them. I try to listen to it. I started off like thinking I'll just do it like 3 times a day, but now it's like 6 hours a day. I do 6 hours a day of enemy destruction meditations. You know, my enemies can't manifest, my enemies are impotent, my enemies are cheated on and dumped, you name it. And subliminals, whatever. I just play them in the background. And then, let's see, what else do I listen to? I will listen to 27 Club and some of the one-hit wonders. Sometimes the oldies, but mostly it's been the enemy meditations. It's all right. It's because if a person's not your enemy, they shouldn't be worried about you listening to it, should they? What else? I'm gonna make a dental appointment today. What have I been? Oh, the Desert Drifter. Oh my gosh. Okay, he recently died, but you would like him, Deadbolt.
I think you'd enjoy it. You'd go want to look at the sites. The Desert Drifter is fun to watch. I'm in a Desert Drifter. Chase Hughes, it's nothing personal because it's not personal because it's not that I don't like him personally. It's just that sometimes he gets on a kick where he's like certain topics he talks about I enjoy more than others. Like his behavioral into his spiritual stuff, I don't. No. One of the things, if I try to explain the reasons, you're not going to like him. One of them is he tells people they shouldn't have any shame. Nah, come on now. First of all, the first group of people didn't have shame stopping them from doing anything in the first place. It's the biggest fucking fallacy that they got a shame-based complex. They don't got no shame-based complex. Get the fuck out of here. Not you, Chase. I'm not saying you get the fuck out of here. But you know when in the 80s when people say a concept and you're like, get out of here. Like, no, these guys, it doesn't mean you, sweetheart. It just means the concept. It's just a saying. No, because when you tell people not to be ashamed about anything, it's doublespeak whether you realize it or not. Because a certain percentage of the population, according to the Yale baby study, Andrew Bustamante, and whatever else you want to look at, they don't really feel shame to begin with. 20% of people don't feel shame. Nah. They maybe over an image, like, oh no, my image doesn't look as good. But feeling bad that your image doesn't look good is not the same thing as shame. Shame is like a different feeling altogether. So, like, you've got 20% of people are immune to shame. And shame is the kind of thing that haunts you at night, even if nobody ever found out about it and your image is still in perfect shape. Okay? So then there's like 13% of people that they're going to be dealing with shame probably no matter what. And it might be a good idea to get to the root cause of where it's coming from. Like, who's trying to make you feel ashamed? Rather than just bypassing it and getting rid of it, is that you trying to make you feel ashamed? Or is someone else trying to make you feel ashamed? And if they're trying to make you feel ashamed, why? Because a person only silences competition that they could never win against. And if shame is the weapon of their silencing, then you got to think about what they're trying to make you feel ashamed of and amp it up a few levels and throw it in their face. Now, that's just a small percentage of society, though. The majority of people that Chase is talking to are the 66% of humanity, which according to the Yale baby study, they do prefer pro-social conduct, but they can be bribed with in-group preference, focus, treats, candies, cookies, kumbaya. His fate model, focus, attention, what's the T? Focus, attention, training, and maybe empathy, I don't remember. Chase uses fate model. Well, okay, so if you're looking at the 66% of people, they're going to revert to being basically pro-social regardless. That's not the issue, that's their default setting. It's just that they can go to the other team under pressure. And then they don't have a problem going back to normal afterwards. And they never really have. And the only group of people that would want to take away what little bit of hangups they have about going over to the other team to be bad for a while, then going back to being normal, would not come from the people who actually suffer. It would come from the people who cause the suffering. So therefore, any message to get rid of shame is not coming from people who are on the side of people who are halfway reasonable. because 20% of the people don't feel shame in the beginning. They don't have it. 66% of the people have no meaningful shame to begin with. And so telling them to get rid of what little bit they have, which barely holds them back from doing hideous stuff to begin with, is a bad plan to create a mob mentality. The remaining group of people who legitimately feel shame, feel bothered by things in the middle of the night that supposedly no one knows about, those people need to look at the source of the shame and find out whether it's theirs or whether it's coming from someone else, and find out that it's coming from some other societal message, someone else, then now they have a target. So 66% of people not only need to keep their shame, they need a little more. 20% never had it in the first place, and 13% need to hunt down the source. So telling people just get rid of shame is just a bypass method. You don't want a mob that's not capable of feeling shame. That doesn't make sense. You want your mob capable of feeling shame. You hope it'll hold them back. It might not, but you hope it would, right? At least you could play on it if you had to. And the other thing is that Chase Hughes is on a kick right now about how everything is a singularity, and that the message of all the religions through the last bits of times that are famous is all this singularity, we're all one. And it's like any mainstream message that has propagated in the last 10,000 years while the system's been ran this way is the message of the system if you like the current fruit. So if you think the world is just the way you want it right now and you don't want anything to change, then go with all the religious views. Go ahead. The problem with monotheism is not that it says there's one creator behind everything. Polytheists and animists say it too. Even algebra, biological determinists and mathematicians say it, that there's a singularity, perhaps a Big Bang. That being said, the monotheist is not the person claiming exclusive rights to the one creator. It's that they're the one who's telling you that despite the fact that the creator has created life such that things compete against each other, even within their own race, and that 50% of the offspring aren't meant to live on the planet Earth from the word go, and that it's a survival of the fittest planet, and that we were made to survive, to thrive off surviving, not off of being happy, and that individualism and division and even holding up your boundaries to the point of fighting is what life is all about, and every single thing in life attests to it. But monotheism, it has the audacity and the blasphemy and the reprobation to say that they've been given special authorization by this creator to tell you the rules of engagement, and that you should set your weapons down and believe that a deity that they have invented that is in their likeness, is in their character and their personality and their temperament, is actually the master of the universe. Because if that's the case, the word master means nothing. And universe means nothing as well. Doesn't work. Monotheists are blasphemers. Everybody knows there's one creator God. You're just running around telling people, lay down your weapons, ignore the creator God's message in all of nature. This one human over here suddenly thinks they can hear from the creator better than you. If somebody tells me they can hear from the creator better than me, I'm going to knock you out. I might not physically do anything, but I'm going to, in the reality, I'm going to grab you by the hair like this
And I'm going to take the sword. Bye, gods and goddesses. Sayonara, fuck faces. Reinvent the gods, all the myths of the ages. I have an internal system. I don't really like the people in my system going around calling themselves gods and goddesses. It's pretty embarrassing. Or prophets. I don't want to hear you talking like that in my system. What the fuck's a prophet? I don't want to hear about it. Suddenly a storm has arisen. The old just word. No. The just world fallacy is a just world fallacy because the world itself is not just. And trying to put justice, if you try to make things that already happen just, you're going to spend your whole day spinning your wheels trying to justify a God that doesn't need your justification. That is the plan of a human who wants to harvest your energy. Fuck that shit. You suck. No. On the topic of psychic powers, we don't believe in it. No, there's people who are like there's cognitive empathy, and then there's involuntary empathy. There you go. There's gating, and there's not that, and there's high levels of gating and low levels of gating. The mothers did a terrible job with all of you.